Many thanks for staying right here with us. It's Sports Central here on Spectrum Television. Now, let's quickly get talking. It's that time. Mari joins the conversation now. Mari, fine morning to have you return.
Yes, thank you very much, Fight. Good morning.
You look sharp.
Thank you very much.
All right, so very quickly, you have me and Abasiakwan joining us remotely this morning from Enugu State, Nigeria. And of course, we'll be talking about a barrage of issues. Nigeria's out in the Commonwealth Games, day 6. Well, mixed fortunes, depending on how you look at it. Mayene, good morning. Fine to have you join us here.
Good morning, Bryce. Good morning, Marizona. Great to have you.
Been,
great to join us.
Yeah, been a minute already. How's Enugu?
So just thank God. It's good. We thank God for the security.
All right. Well, I see Enugu is treating you because you're looking sharp.
Really?
All right, so let's get talking very quickly and begin a conversation from the Commonwealth Games. Well, mixed reactions for Team Nigeria. That's why all of the hopes following the 100 meters and the fact that we had bulk of our athletes qualifying for the semi-finals. You know, we're talking about the likes of Nwokocha and the rest of, you know, the guys that competed in that particular one. And in the women's event, we had the likes of Rosemary, Grace, Nwokocha. You know, though Gabriel couldn't make it to the finals, could only finish 6th in her semi-final hit. But all of that came to nothing. No medal for Team Nigeria after day 6. So how would you describe or how would you cap off day 6 for Team Nigeria?
I think, first of all, I will start off with the men. I was disappointed that, you know, the man called the Nigerian nightmare, Favour Ashe. He's the fastest man in Nigeria. He's the national champion. I remember how he broke that record. I was disappointed that he didn't progress to the finals. But for the rest, the likes of Raymond Quavo, I think they're just coming through. Also, Brume, also coming through. My hopes also on Favour Ashe, but he disappointed me. He did great in the heats. He dominated the heat, and then going to the semi-final, I expected him to do better, getting to the finals at least. But for the women, I think we have to give it up to Grace Nwokocha. We have to give it up to Grace Nwokocha and also Rosemary Chukwuma. They did their best. For Grace Nwokocha, dominated the heats, progressed to the semi-finals, also did the best. But look, when you're up against the top notch, you're up against an Olympic champion, when you're up against the Jamaican ladies, Thomas Hale, who won the event, I mean, it's always going to be a fast race. But was I expecting anything? I wasn't really expecting anything. I was just expecting the ladies to get through the final, but I was expecting a whole lot from Favour Ashe. But he's still he's a young athlete. So I mean, it's just, this is his first Commonwealth game. So maybe we need to forgive him. Maybe we need to move on. Rosemary Chukwuma also have first Commonwealth game. So these guys and these ladies are just young athletes. It's just the first time. Maybe the second time they will improve. Maybe they will get to the podium.
Right now, Mario talked about this yesterday, and you know, Blyden put a very strong statement saying, "Well, maybe this is an indictment on the quality available for Team Nigeria. Maybe these guys are not just good enough, or as not good as we think they are." You know, what do you make of that? Well, Maine has made a case for, you know, the likes of Favour, you know, Ashe, and the rest of them, Rosemary Chukwuma, saying, well, this is their first Commonwealth Games. Is it about how big the occasion was, or is there an indictment on, you know, how much quality they really possess?
Well, first off, right, I think it's a gradual process. When you look at these players, you know, the champions at the national level, you know, they competed against athletes from Nigeria. It's a different ballgame when you travel, when you go, you know, go global. You're competing with athletes from different countries. You talk about Australia, you talk about England, you talk about South Africa and the rest of them. It gets difficult. You know, talk about India, who were particularly fantastic in the heat yesterday. So it's difficult, you know, to put that quality side by side with what we have in Nigeria. So, like Mayene said, it's the first time, you know, they're experiencing the Commonwealth Games, and they definitely understand the quality that that they have experienced in the Commonwealth Games, and then they'll try to improve their game heading into maybe another tournament that they'll participate in. So, as I said yesterday, you shouldn't just clearly, completely write them off. It's an experience, and I believe that, you know, in subsequent games, subsequent tournaments, they'll do a lot better because they've come to realize that, you know, at the national level, you know, things are different from what we have at the global level. It's Commonwealth Games, so it's something different, quality all around. So I think they'll do a lot better, and I think we should cut them some slack. They deserve, you know, to be, you know, celebrated at the end of the day.
Right now, you know, many the fear for many is that this is just the Commonwealth Games, and of course it's you know, for countries associated with Britain basically and nothing more. So if they can't if they can't compete favorably, you know, with the athletes at the Commonwealth Games, what more or how so will they compete? How will they compete at the Olympics when you're having, it's a more global tournament where you're having, you know, people from different countries of the world, different continents of the world, and the golfing quality and of course the gap in experience and all of that, you know, will broaden. Is that a fear you have?
Well, but first of all, I think my fear is the lack of, should I say, in terms of quality, in terms of preparation. I'm more concerned about how these athletes prepare for games. Let me show you an example of what's been happening in the men's athletics in the track and field. This is what has been happening. This is what has been happening. Forget what Toby Morrison has done. That's for the women. But for the men, it's not going up. It's going down. It means the young athletes coming through, they need time. Do they prepare enough? Do the ministry, do the Athletics Federation of Nigeria prepare these guys enough? No, they don't. If they don't have scholarship in the United States, probably we don't even have top-level athletes. And you have to give kudos to making of champions, the MOC, that's what they called it. They were the one that discovered Favour Ashe, who is now a national champion, who also broke a record in the last trials and in the last national championship. So we need to prepare well to compete favorably with other continents. Goodness me, Sri Lanka got third yesterday in the men's 100 meters. The first time ever. Sri Lanka, a country, we know what's happening in Sri Lanka at the moment, that a Sri Lankan athlete got bronze in the 100 meters. It shows that there is some sort of commitment. Favour Ashe, to me, could compete with our Sri Lanka athletes. Favour Ashe could compete with the Englishman who came fourth. So I just feel we need to prepare more. We need to keep preparing more. He has the quality. The likes of Raymond Quavo, these guys are just young guys coming through. They need time. They need time. For people who are just known Toby Muslim now, and maybe S.A. Broma now, there was a time S.A. Broma and Toby were just coming through. The weight of expectation is much. I understand. But these guys need time. It's time for the ladies to shine because they've been under for a very long time. So I think we need to be more deliberate. That's the key word. Let's be more deliberate, invest more in the preparation of these athletes, and I think they will turn up.
Right now, let me get back to you now, Marian. Let's talk about, you know, some of the things Marian has talked about, you know, early preparation, you know, the facts that we've not been consistent in terms of preparation, and of course we've not been very deliberate in terms of planning for some of this big occasion, big events. But overall, despite the shorty preparation, what do you make of Nigeria's participation at the Commonwealth Games so far?
Right, 3 gold medals, 1 silver and 4 bronze medals, 8 in total. I think it's commendable, you know, for sort of athletes who are participating in this competition for the very first time, bulk of them participating for the very first time. You know, so imagine if we're having 8 medals due to lack of preparation. Imagine when we're not prepared, prepare well, competition like this. I think we'll do a lot better.
Will we ever prepare well?
But that's the problem, Bryce. And I think, you know, when Mary was talking about preparation, I think it's an all-encompassing thing. You know, it goes beyond just athletics. You know, look at basketball, the Tigers. I think last year when they were playing for the, you know, women's Afro basket, they started camp, I think a week before the tournament. That's actually very poor. And then there was so much, you know, blame games around flying, you know, Ministry of Youth and Sports, the federal government, you know, MBBF and all of that. So it's a problem in the system. And once we fix that systematic problem of, you know, poor preparation and lack of interest and investment into sports in the country, I think we'll be doing badly, particularly. So I just hope that things get better. But these athletes are doing very well, despite the stories that we're having in the country, where athletes are not properly treated. You're heading into tournaments like this. Bulk of them are coming from the USA, and that's because, you know, they understand that the country, you know, right now, they will be treated as well and as better as they will be treated, you know, overseas. So I think the story should be about, you know, investing a lot more into sports and trying to do the right thing, and maybe from there would compete more and win more medals. Like Marine says, Sri Lanka winning the medal. That's crazy as compared to Nigeria. Right.
Now, Marine, let's look at the games in total beyond just athletics. Now, I remember in 2018 we were in Abuja for the National Sports Festival, and then, you know, Edidion, Mafia, who won Nigeria, you know, a silver medal in weightlifting, you know, emerged there. You know, that structure in place now, and of course we've seen that steady progression. You know, on a personal note, how did that make you feel seeing Edidion on the big screen, landing a medal, not just for Akwa Ibom, but Team Nigeria now at the Commonwealth Games?
Well, I was so happy. I was so excited. Now, thank God you know the story of Edidion. And I mean, after the games, the National Sport Festival in 2018, where he emerged as the national champion, about the last National Sport Festival, I think that's in 2020-2021 in Benin City. He also emerged national champion again. He won 3 gold medals. Dominated his class, his weightlifting class. Remember the Nigerian weightlifting championship in New York last year, where he broke the national record and also set the national record. I was also super excited. But you know what my takeaway was from that event at the Commonwealth? When we had a press lack of equipment, he complained about facility, that what that was there in, I don't know if anything has been done at the Uyo Township Stadium, that the facilities is horrible and all of that, that he needed equipment so he can prepare well for the Commonwealth Games. I also remember we spoke to Coach Lawrence Ikwaibon, who at that point was vying to become the Nigerian Weightlifting Federation president, although he lost her. But he was key for that weightlifting championship to come to Europe. And he said, look, as a federation, we are working to see how we can get facilities, equipment for this athlete. I also remember how he used to text me and send me messages. He will be saying, media, I still don't have facilities. We need a way forward. I'm going to Akwa Ibom. I'm going to go to another state, maybe Edo, maybe Delta State. So, because it's better welfare in those states, and they will appreciate what he's been doing. So, when I got that message, when I watched it, I stayed up and watched it. I was so excited for him. He almost got silver. He also almost got gold. But the key thing is, in his debut on the Commonwealth Games, against the odds, against the lack of facilities, against the lack of equipment, against the lack of motivation and all of that, Edidion still pushed. Edidion showed the Nigerian spirit. Edidion showed the never say never spirit against the odds to gain odds, right? I think it was massive. It was a day to relish that against the odds. You know what happens when they are giving you 1.03 and then you're giving you 15 odds against people like the Indians and the rest who have better facilities, and you come on top? No, it was a great feat. I can only wish that he will be rewarded.
Well, I'm very sure there are more Edidions, you know, waiting around the city of Uyo, scattered across Akwa Ibom, waiting to be discovered. And well, we'll be talking about the the Akwa Ibom Sports Festival. Well, we heard from the commissioner a couple of days ago that we should have that twice before the end of the current administration, and we're hoping one of these days would get the commissioner to come here, talk with us about the sports festival here in Akwa Ibom, the plans, and of course, beyond this administration, what the plans are to, you know, make it, you know, a yearly thing, you know, basically, you know, give the sports festival here some legislative backing, so it outlives a particular administration. But for now, let's leave there very quickly. Mari, let's talk about tennis.
Right.
Tennis stories this morning, starting with the Washington Open. Nick Kyrgios is doing something fabulous. Yesterday we talked about him, you know, he loves to play tennis, enjoying playing tennis at the moment. Fresh off the Wimbledon finals, saw off an American in the final, in the first clash, and had another American yesterday. Saw him off and has now set up a third round clash against the big serving Riley Opelka.
Well, right, interesting stuff. You know, definitely we're talking about a man who has decided to play tennis finally. you know, went to the Wimbledon Open final, and then there was so much talk about, well, this man has got quality at the end of the day, despite all of the bad talk about him, you know, being a bad boy of tennis and not playing well. But in the last 2 games he's played, you know, after the Wimbledon final, he showed class. He showed that he actually you know can do a lot, you know, to tennis in the next couple of games. And I also love the fact that, as I said yesterday, he's added discipline to his game. You know, he's a little less emotional, you know, in games like this. He just focuses on playing tennis and not trying to upset his opponents, upset, you know, the umpire and all of that. A fine straight set tweet yesterday showed that he's got class. But of course, he has another opponent in Riley Opelka. Like he said, it's a tricky game because Opelka is one opponent, one player that definitely knows how to upset the big guns. He tries to make sure that he puts up a fine fight against, you know, players that are seen as, you know, top-notch players, are seen as, you know, highly ranked players in tournaments like this. So I'm looking forward to how he puts up a performance. I'm expecting him, Bright, particularly to go all out and win this one and increase his style, increase, you know, his rankings, and definitely, you know, probably prepare well for the US Open. If he could reach the final of the Wimbledon in England, there's a chance that maybe that quality can continue, that consistency can also continue, and it takes you through to the US Open, another top-level tournament before the end of the year.
Right now, Main, I know you're a big fan of Nick Kyrgios. What have you made of this? What do you make rather of his meteoric rises, particularly has improved his racket to 23-7, 23 wins, 7 losses. Sin of 2 Americans. You know, he would face Riley Opelka in the 3rd round, Marcus Giron in the 1st round, Tommy Paul yesterday, and the journey continues for Nick. You know, have you been impressed with Nick's going so far this particular year? I think, you know, network is... Mayor, can you hear me? Yeah, so
yes,
we're talking about, you know, Nick Kyrgios. I know you're a big fan of Nick Kyrgios. So basically, I was asking, what do you make of the meteoric rise for him this particular year? Reached the Wimbledon final and has continued that massive form ahead of the US Open, the last Grand Slam of this particular year, of 2 Americans so far. Marcus Giron in the 1st, Tommy Paul yesterday, setting up that 3rd round clash against Riley Opelka.
Well, I think I just have to be happy for Nick. He's been tapped a bad boy, although he's been showing the tendency on the court and all of the fines and all those rash behaviors and all of that. But I think I'm super excited for him. I just feel like probably he didn't get to face Novak at the Wimbledon. Probably would have been a Grand Slam winner, and I'll be more excited now. But I'm not surprised. I know him to be a hugely talented tennis player. I think it's just been a case of maturity. It's just been a case of keeping his head down and just concentrating more in the game. Just allow whatever is coming from the side not to distract him. He has been distracted for far too long. He has been distracted for far too long. But keeping your cool, concentrating more in the game. Yes, sometimes the game might not favor you and you might get frustrated. But I think he's maturing. And I'll not be surprised in no distant time he wins the Grand Slam. So I'm just so excited for him for being the bad boy. Now people at the world of tennis fans are really seeing the quality that I've seen in Nick for a very long time.
All right, now let's hit the breaks here very quickly. And when we return, we talk about football stories, beginning with the statements made by Napoli president Aurelio De Laurentiis yesterday, and transfer stories where Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang has come up this morning. Kasper Schmeichel is also another big name we're talking about, and find the details after this short time out. So stay right here with us. Heroics of the man, Kasper Schmeichel. Thank you very much for staying right here with us on the Sports Central here on Spectrum Television. Marius, you here, Marius, who the man has finally gotten his desire, that switch from Leicester to Nice. Well, you know, been battling with that. What's the attraction? What's there in Nice, away from Leicester?
I think the question should be what's the situation that made him leave Leicester City to Nice? First off, Leicester City are still trying to balance their books according to the stories that we're getting. They haven't been able to find a balance between income and expenditure, arrivals and departures. So they need to let go of a few players so as to balance the books, and that's basically why they've decided to let go of the man Kasper Schmeichel, who decided to leave for Nice. Nice have qualified for European competition. Big thanks to Christoph Gatler, who was there last season, helped them qualify. I think for the Europa League. So I think he goes there, and as to the quality, he's 35, and then the few clips we've seen clearly shows this man has got quality. Despite his age, we all know goalkeepers in football age with grace. So he gets there, adds to the quality, and helps them in European competitions. He's been there before, played in the Champions League with Leicester City at some point, so he goes there to help them. But I think it's sad for Leicester City. They are the only team in Europe's top 7 league to not do any signing. That's due to their financial situation, not being able to balance the book. So losing this man for me is going to be a big miss, because you'd find it hard to replace a goalkeeper as committed and consistent as Kasper Schmeichel. For you as Premier League side, that we understand that Premier League is definitely very, very serious and very competitive, because strikers want to score goals, and you need a consistent and good goalkeeper as Schmeichel for you there. So I think he's going to be a big miss for Leicester City. But he goes to Nice, and that's the quality, and of course, a new terrain. He's played in his hometown Denmark, in England as well. So France is good. It's a good way for him, right?
Right now, worrisome for Leicester, because according to reports, they're yet to get a replacement as we speak, and on the verge of also losing before the end of the transfer window. Could lose up to 3 players. Wesley Fofana getting close to joining Chelsea, and Maddison is attracting interest from Newcastle. Well, we understand the first bid of about £40 million was rejected by Leicester City, who are holding out for their £50 million valuation of the playmaker. We wish him the very best. Well, he leaves a championship winner, a Premier League winner, but of course not forgetting the FA Cup that recently won at the expense of Chelsea Football Club. Well, many are wondering, Chelsea would have to be dragged into every single football competition these days. Now, let's leave the very quickly and talk about Aurelio De Laurentiis and the statement he made yesterday as the Napoli president, and that has sparked a lot of reaction from Nigeria, across the continent of Africa and beyond. And now let's take a quick look at what Aurelio said, and Mayne would quickly share his thoughts to us on what he made of that particular statement. Aurelio yesterday now said, and I quote the Napoli president, or paraphrasing, it was basically talking about African players and the fact that for Napoli to sign African players in the future, they would have to sign a contract which prohibits them from playing at the Africa Cup of Nations. That sparked lots of reactions, and yesterday, and I think we should take a look at that in full glare. And of course, quotes the man line for line, said, and I quote, "I love them, but either they sign something confirming they'll back out of playing the African Cup of Nations, or otherwise, between the tournament, the World Cup qualifiers in South America, these players are never available." Well, the idiots who pay salaries only to send them all over the world playing for others. Mayor, what do you make of this statement from Aurelio De Laurentiis, the Napoli president? When it broke, what was your initial reaction to it?
First of all, I'm not surprised. He's a movie man. De Laurentiis is a movie man. And I've always felt like he has this tendency, well, did I even expect him to spend that more than Victor Osimhen? At some point, I thought it was a joke, because I always felt like De Laurentiis has a tendency of being a racist. So when that came through, I didn't really give attention to it. But it's quite heartbreaking that a man who is a president of a huge club like Napoli will come out to make such statement. But there is another side to that story. And I think the part we need to look at is the fact that it's the clubs that pay these players. That's number one. Number two, when these players go to the tournament to pick injuries, please, who treats this player? Still the club. They'll return to the club and they'll get treated by the club. I would love to understand the angle De Laurentiis is coming from. And that's the angle of pain. That look like Victor Osimhen, like Zambo Guiza. Those guys are key players in Napoli. Imagine losing them as soon as the second half of the season starts. You're losing your key players to the AFCON. So that to me should send a signal to CAF. What if you could shift it to the summer? Why not shift it to the summer? Because the black players, the African players, are in disadvantage. Now, how many top clubs is going to sign the African players now? Because when a top club signs an African player, it means when the African comes, he's going to leave. So when these white folks want to sign black players, African players, they have a rethink. Is it worth it? If I spend £100 million on me to go to Manchester United, I know when Nigeria comes, he's going to go to Nigeria. Remember the case of Emmanuel Davis at the Afcon. What happened? They won. Ismail Assar, the Senegalese, had to fight to get released. And Woodford were in the middle.
Right now, no intent to cut you short there. No intent to cut you short. But now let's talk about the other part of the conversation. So if we're saying let's shift it from January, February, when it is currently played, to June, July. Well, that's the off season. But of course, you must put in the weather conditions here in Africa. Does it favor the June, July movement? Because it has to be something that's feasible, that will work with us as Africans. We understand our unique challenge during the June, July period. All right, Mayene?
Yes.
All right, I think you missed me for a bit. Now, I was talking about the June-July conversation now, and the conversation about the weather conditions here on the continent of Africa within that period. So if we're saying let's shift it from January, February to please the European club owners, and of course to have these players available to play for the European clubs. How about the continent? How do we deal with the challenge of the weather conditions owing to the heavy downpour we have in June, July?
Well, first of all, I think you're making reference to what happened in Cote d'Ivoire. First of all, I would love to use this medium to slam CAF, because first of all, you knew that there are going to be weather situations, or it's going to be heavy downpour in Cote d'Ivoire, and you have to keep it this long. Like, if you're giving, look at what FIFA did with Qatar. They knew the situation with Qatar. What did they do? They pushed it down to November, and made sure the logistics and every single thing was put in place. But what did CAF do? CAF waited up until 8 months to the AFCON to shift it and come out with an excuse of weather conditions. Were they not supposed to do their research first? Now, I take you to the research part. Before you give hosting rights to any country, are you not supposed to do your research? While you're saying, do they have the facilities? Oh, are they going to build new stadiums? Those are the things you do. You function in the weather conditions. Now, it's going to come to a situation where the continent will have to choose either to lose their big stars or go ahead with the AFCON. And I tell you, you know what happens in African football. These players want to play for their country, but who foots their bills? It's the club. Now, it's going to come, which is okay, I'm going to stay with the club and the country. Because this battle will continue. This battle will continue. Now, we need to find maybe the European clubs and CAF will sit down at the round table.
Well, it definitely sounds like we have to find a common ground, between the club owners, European club owners, and CAF, because I feel that's where the conversation will be directed in the first place. Well, I think we're having serious network issues there with that particular connection. It's not really smooth. It's not been in the last couple of seconds. Well, we'll continue the conversation here now. Move on to transfers, Mari, very quickly. Chelsea need a striker so badly and are now turning their attentions to the man who just left Arsenal for Barcelona in Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. Well, we understand there's that relationship between Thomas Tuchel and Aubameyang back in their days in Germany at Borussia Dortmund. How about the fear of Thomas Tuchel and his playing pattern not favoring other now strikers?
Bright, I think first off, let's talk about Chelsea. They're in a very sad situation. They're just going for, the available legs. The quality players have already left the market, and then they're just trying to see if they can squeeze in and then beg people to sell their players off for them, which is particularly very sad. Yeah, beg at the end of the day. So I think, for Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, quality-wise, he's got that quality. He came to the Premier League in less than 2 seasons. He was highest goal scorer. Was joined with Sadio Mane and Mohamed Salah that particular season. So he scored 92 in 160 appearances for Arsenal. So the quality is there. But like I said, the concern of him being suitable and to the Chelsea pattern is a thing of concern for me, because what Tuchel played at Borussia Dortmund is not the same thing. He's trying the same strategy at Chelsea. It's a lot different, and that might be a problem. And but I think what I'm concerned about particularly is the fact that bulk of these transfer moves, these signings, are not sanctioned by Thomas Tuchel. I think they are just basically spearheaded by Todd Boehly, and then Tuchel has to just settle. Because I don't really see how things will go down like this at Chelsea. And then it looks like they're just dumping players on Thomas Tuchel and telling him, well, Fofana will come and see you, Aubameyang will come to you, and all of that. Try to work them out, which is particularly very sad for me.
Yeah, that sounded funny. Like, I would send Fofana to you, I would send Aubameyang to you, I would have sent Koulibaly to you, and Sterling as well. Do with them whatever you wish. All right, so Millionaire, what do you make of this transfer link? Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, with the man who wants to stay at Barca, he just moved there after all, but Chelsea are in dire need of a striker. At least they can't leave all of their goal-scoring burden to Armando Broja, can they?
Right, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, so I'll take that again. What do you make of that transfer link in 60 seconds? Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, in talks to join Chelsea, we understand. What do you make of that transfer, negotiation beyond that? Aubameyang just got to Barca, and the man obviously has plans to stay. But Chelsea, they haven't got strikers, having allowed Romelu Lukaku joining Inter Milan on loan. They only have Armando Broja. They can't allow their goal-scoring burden to rest on the youngster, can they?
I think it's just insane. It just shows that the transfer market is just out of this world. But I think if Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang decides to return to England, fine. I think it's going to be a good move. The romance between Auba and Chelsea will be inch perfect for me. But does he need to move? I don't think so. But he knows he's going to play second fiddle to Robert Lewandowski at Barcelona. But financially, looking at the options available, I think it will be a great move if Auba decides to go to Chelsea. A return to the Premier League and maybe a point to prove to Arsenal Football Club that is still good enough. I think it will be a good move.
All right. Well, that would be another conversation. Thank you very much, Mari. Thank you, Mayen, for joining the conversation as well. Thank you for your time. We thoroughly appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, continue to enjoy.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Well, that's how much time allows us to go here on the show this morning. We'll return tomorrow with more stories for you from the sports sphere. But for now, to wrap, have fun, guys. And the conversation continues on social media, SpectrumTv NG, on Facebook, on Twitter, and, of course, on Instagram. You can also join us on our websites, www.spectrumtv.ng, on YouTube. Check out Spectrum TV. You get to enjoy all of the exciting content. Enjoy the rest of your day. We're out.